Okay, so here I am with my 2017 Chevy Traverse, and I've got a Stabilitrac problem. And after extensive research on the internet, I'm trying to figure out which of these problems, or which of these problems that they've listed for me to go take a look at are not the issue. Because I have kind of been going through the list. I did clean my manifold, and it was really oily, like a sticky honey oily. Changed my air filter. I cleaned my mass airflow sensor. Basically, those things that would impact what the brain of the computer, the ECU, thinks is going on. So I found another post though, or actually, what I did is I plugged in the OBDII, and I got a code C0161, which basically points to there being a problem with the braking switch. So if you can just kind of look here, like how this works is, as I push the brake, see how it moves that lever? That tells, there's a lot of things that happen when you're pushing your brake pedal. There's a lot of simultaneous actions. One of which is the brake lights are actuated, right? Another one, if you have cruise control activated, once this switch is activated, it'll shut off your cruise control. The other thing that it does with the anti-lock braking system that is really complicated, there's a series of really complicated calculations that the car's computer does when you press the brake pedal, because in essence, if we were to personify the car, it's going to sit back and think, hey, the driver has just actuated the brake. What exactly are they trying to do? And what it's going to ask itself is have they just initiated an emergency situation? In other words, the car is going to look at, I don't even know how many data points, let's just call it 100 data points within a split second to determine if this is an emergency situation and if the Stabilitrac system needs to be engaged. In other words, so here you have your steering column. Like if I wiggle the steering wheel, well, it's locked, but you can kind of see, like, there's a sensor on this column, and I haven't quite identified it yet, but there's a sensor on this steering column that tells the computer what radial the steering wheel is pointing at. In other words, is the steering wheel turned? Is it pointing straight? And to what degree? And then it looks at all four wheel speed sensors. How fast is, the front driver compared to the rear passenger wheel spinning? Are those speeds the same, or is one spinning much faster than the other? And then the system does all these calculations to determine, okay, well, to get this person out of the emergency situation that we've now determined that they're in, we are going to deploy the anti-lock braking system, and we're going to send brakes to the rear driver's side for a split second, and then we're going to do it to the front left, and then we're going to do it to the rear right, all based on a bunch of these calculations. So all of this happens in a blink of an eye, and it is kind of one of the amazing things about the anti-lock braking system, ABS, in these cars. It does increase safety, but it does add some complications that include more problems that could go wrong with your car that you got to go figure out. Okay, so that said, this code that tells me that there's potentially something wrong with this sensor, and then I kind of went down this little rabbit hole on some forums and stuff like that. And what people are suggesting, and what somebody suggested is there's too much play in the brake pedal. See how I can lift and I can shake my brake pedal? So this was just last night, and in the dark, I got really excited because okay, I'm going to go out and try this, because what I wanted to know is if I push the brake pedal and then I let go of it, do my brake lights stay on? And what I found out last night in the dark, I was able to do this because it was, I can see obviously the reflection on the ground easily. I would push the brakes and then let go of the pedal really fast, and guess what? My brake lights would stay on. So there's obviously a problem with this play, or there's a problem with the switch, and so that's what I'm going to figure out today is how can I remove this play and make this switch think that we don't have the brakes applied. So I'll table that for the time being. Now, the other thing too, what really took me down this rabbit hole on this code is, this is often called the 2-foot code or whatever. Mechanics, when when the Stabilitrac system is disabled and folks take their cars into mechanics, the mechanics will say, okay, well, I don't mean to offend you, but do you drive with 2 feet? In other words, do you have a foot on the gas pedal and a foot on the brake pedal? And if you do that at the same time, there is some combination. I don't know exactly what it is for the Traverse, but let's just say, for example, if the brake is actuated and you're also pushing the gas pedal, and if you're driving over 6 miles per hour for a period of 5 seconds or greater, I just made that up, but the car is going to say, dude, I don't know what you're trying to do, bro. Like, on one hand, you're telling me that you want to go, on the other hand, you're telling me that you want to stop. So I don't know what to do. And my computer doesn't recognize this combination of inputs. And so what we're going to do is disable the Stabilitrac system, and we're going to try to get the driver's attention and see if we can get them to make a decision. So really, I don't drive with 2 feet, but with this brake lever sagging just a little bit with this play, and maybe the switch is wearing out, but basically it's mimicking that same thing. Is like I'm driving with 2 feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking closely at the brake pedal. There is no like quick adjuster. I was looking for like a kind of a Heim joint connection or something like that, where it'd be easy for me to go in and just make an adjustment like you would, with a steering knuckle or something like that. But I don't see that. So I'm going to look at kind of what some of my other options are. I'm going to get up on the other side of the car and look at how the linkage goes outside the car, outside the cabin to the vacuum assist, the vacuum booster, right before the master cylinder, and see if there's like some linkage there that I can adjust. So I'll take a look at that, and I'll just kind of see what my options are. But overall, that's kind of the diagnosis. I really believe that this is the problem. And again, let me just go back really quickly. I only had the one code. I'll flash that on the screen right now, but the ABS light was not on. So if the ABS light is on, then that kind of lends itself to, some other problems. Like you might have a wheel speed sensor wire that is brittle and broken down on one of the 4 wheels. You could also have the magnetic ring that is on the hub that the wheel speed sensor is picking up. That rotation. There's a magnet that sits there, and it's basically like a strip of, I don't know, tape, if you will, but it's a magnetic strip that goes around the hub, and if that breaks, or if something with the wheel speed sensor goes wrong, then you'll actually have an ABS light on along with the Stabilitrac message that is telling you that the Stabilitrac has been disengaged, as well as that yellow, that yellow symbol with the car skid marks on it, I guess. So let me go look and see what adjustments I can make. Okay, so I haven't looked that hard. Without actually removing this brake pedal, there's not a lot that you can see up there. There could be like a linkage up there that I could adjust, but what I'm going to do before that is I'm actually just going to run an experiment, and I just want to know if this is going to fix my problem. So one of the frustrating things with this Stabilitrac problem is it happened when I was just driving on the highway at about 55 miles an hour. It just turned on, okay? And the symptoms were I got the error, I got the message, I got the Stabilitrac light, which is the yellow one with the car. This one right here. I got that light on. And once I hit about 55 miles an hour, the transmission started like shifting rapidly, and you could tell like, whoa, that is not good for that. So I kind of had this, I had a little bit of a scary moment there. Okay, so I think I was explaining the symptoms. So as I would hit, 55 miles an hour, the transmission would just start to shake. So again, that's the only light that I had on. I did not have an ABS light on, and this is really important that to note that for my earlier explanation earlier in this clip. So it's just the Stabilitrac, and the Stabilitrac, you know, can make your transmission shift funny when it's disabled. So just know that. So anyways, that just kind of goes over my symptoms. So I've gone through kind of what I've been trying to do here, and what I'm going to do to see if this fixes the problem is I've actually taken this spring. I actually had this spring laying around in my garage. There's a hole already conveniently located right up. See that hole? That already exists. And then this spring conveniently just kind of sits right here on this, you know, almost, you know, like a cotter pin, you know, scenario. Like, look at that. It just sits right there on the brake pedal. It's metal to metal. And it doesn't interfere with the switch, you know, as far as that I can tell. The switch sits out far enough. So this is, again, this is a temporary trial run that I'm going to do to see if this fixes the problem. I do have a brake switch on the way that's like $16 to replace, so I'm just going to replace it. But, you know, in lieu of me like diving into my like vacuum, my vacuum booster under the hood and unburying a whole bunch of stuff, I actually just am going to see if this fixes the problem. So what this spring does, it actually has eliminated my play. So my pedal pops all the way back up, and it is taking that sensor to what I believe is the 0 position every single time. So I think that this is going to fix my problem. So I'm going to drive this for a couple of days, and if I don't get this problem again, it's been intermittent, you know. So I think I started explaining that the night before it turned on, things got weird. The next day, you know, my wife is driving the car around, and I drove it around after I got home from work, and we didn't see it all day long. And so yesterday, I'm like, great, I'm going to clean the mass flow air sensor. I'm going to clean out all the gunk and oily residue out of the manifold, or the intake manifold, the throttle body, using the wrong term there. So out of the throttle body, I actually have a throttle body on order just because my wife's going on a trip, and I want to make sure I have the parts here to swap out at the last minute if I need to. But again, I don't think it's any of that. I think it's this brake switch right here. So I'm going to drive this, I'm going to drive with this on, and I'm going to see if we can get rid of this intermittent problem with the Stabilitrac disengaging. So what I've used is, they have these springs at Home Depot, and this is actually the one I actually use is slightly shorter. So this one is 58. So I would say that the one that I used is probably 40. I would say that the one that I use is about 46 millimeters in length, because I did use one that's just about 10 millimeters shorter than this one. But this is the type of spring that I used. So one side is a solid wire, and this is the side that I have around the brake pedal. And then this is a hook that I slightly bent outward, just barely though, so that I could get it in that hook up, you know, further up on the brake pedal where that existing hole is. And it allows this, like, there's actually a pretty, if I stick my finger back there, I mean, it's got some good hook in there. You know, the hook is in there all the way like up to here. So this thing isn't just going to arbitrarily let go, but you kind of have to sit back and think, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, if this spring failed, or if it somehow got in the way of the brake switch, like, what would happen? Well, what would happen is what's already happening. Stabilitrac would, you know, disengage and all that other stuff. So it's not like the car would just stop or not stop, because the stopping of the car is still mechanical through the vacuum booster and the master cylinder, that hydraulic action, you know, with your foot. It's still mechanical that way, but the sensor, you know, can just mess up the brain and confuse the brain. So that's what we're going to go with. I'm going to drive it for a couple of days, and we'll see if this temporary fix fixes it. And if it does, then I will go through and finish this correctly. I'm going to figure out a way to actually adjust the pedal so that I don't have to have that spring up there. So good luck to you on this issue. I hope this has helped you at least eliminate or solve your problem.